Yeah. Yeah. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text 16. Grihat Pravrajito Dhiram
Grihat Pravrajito Dhira
Punyatirtha Jalaputaha
Punyatirtha Jalaputaha
Shucho Vivikta Asino
Shucho Vivikta Asino
Vidhivat Kalpitasana
Vidivat Kalpitasane
Grihat Pravrajito Dhira
Grihat Pravrajito Dhira
Punyatirtha Jalaputaha
Punyatirtha Jalaputaha
Shucho Vivikta Asino
Shucho Vivikta Asino
Vidhivat Kalpitasane
Vidivat Kalpitasane
Grihat Pravrajito Dhira
Grihat Pravrajito Dhira
Punyatirtha Jalaputaha
Punyatirtha Jalaputaha
Shucho Vivikta Asino
Shucho Vivikta Asino
Vidhivat Kalpitasane
Vidivat Kalpitasane Grihat Pravrajito Dhira
Grihat Pravrajito Dhira
Punyatirtha Jalapluta
Punyatirtha Jalapluta
Shucho Vivikta Asino
Shucho Vivikta Asino
Vidivat Kalpitasane
Vidhivat Kalpitasane. Oh, this is Canto 2, Text 1. Canto 2 and Chapter 1, Text 16. 16, yeah. Also, I forgot. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Vrihat
Vrihat
from one's home.
From one's home.
Pravrajitaha
Pravrajitaha
having gone out.
Having gone out.
Dhiraha
Dhiraha
self-control.
Self-control.
Punya
Punya
pious.
Pious. Tirtha,
sacred place.
sacred place.
Jala Aplutaha,
Jala Aplutaha,
fully washed.
fully washed.
Shucho,
Shucho,
cleansed.
cleansed.
Vivikte,
Vivikte,
solitary.
solitary.
Asina,
Asina,
seated.
seated.
Vidivat,
Vidivat,
according to regulations.
according to regulations.
Kalpita,
Kalpita,
having done.
having done.
Asane,
Asane,
on a sitting place.
on a sitting place.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One should leave home and practice self-control. In a sacred place, he should bathe regularly and sit down in a lonely place, duly sanctified. To prepare oneself for the better next life, one must get out of one's so-called home. The system of Varnashram Dharma or Sanatan Dharma prescribes retirement from family encumbrances as early as possible, after one has passed 50 years of age. Modern civilization is based on family comforts, the highest standard of amenities. Therefore, after retirement, everyone expects to live a very comfortable life in a well-furnished home, decorated with fine ladies and children, without any desire to get out of such a comfortable home. High government officers and ministers stick to their prized posts until death, and they neither dream nor desire to get out of homely comforts. Bound by such hallucinations, materialistic men prepare various plans for a still more comfortable life. But suddenly cruel death comes, without mercy, and takes away the great plan maker against his desire, forcing him to give up the present body for another body. Such a plan maker is thus forced to accept another body in one of the 8,400,000 species of life, according to the fruits of the work he has performed. In the next life, persons who are too much attached to family comforts are generally awarded lower species of life on account of sinful acts performed during a long duration of sinful life, and thus all the energy of the human life is spoiled. In order to be saved from the danger of spoiling the human form of life and being attached to unreal things, one must take warning of death at the age of 50, if not earlier. The principle is that one should take it for granted that the death warning is already there, even prior to the attainment of 50 years of age, and thus at any stage of life, one should prepare himself for a better next life. The system of the Sanatan Dharma institution is so made that the follower is trained for the better next life without any chance that the human life will be spoiled. The holy places all over the world are meant for the residential purposes of retired persons getting ready for a better next life. Intelligent persons must go there at the end of life, and for that matter, after 50 years of age, to live a life of spiritual regeneration for the sake of being freed from family attachments, which is considered to be the shackle of material life. One is recommended to quit home just to get rid of material attachments, because one who sticks to family life until death cannot get rid of material attachments, and as long as one is materially attached, one cannot understand spiritual freedom. One should not, however, become self-complacent simply by leaving home or by creating another home at the holy place, either lawfully or unlawfully. Many persons leave home and go to such holy places, but due to bad association again become family men by illicit connection with the opposite sex. The illusory energy of matter is so strong that one is apt to be under such illusion at every stage of life, even after quitting one's happy home. Therefore, it is essential that one practice self-control by celibacy without the least desire for sex indulgence. For a man desiring to improve the condition of his existence, sex indulgence is considered suicidal, or even worse. Therefore, to live apart from family life means to become self-controlled in regard to all sense desires, especially sex desires. The method is that one should have a duly sanctified sitting place made of straw, deerskin, and carpet, and thus sitting on it, one should chant the holy name of the Lord without offense, as prescribed above. The whole process is to drag the mind away from material engagements and fix it on the lotus feet of the Lord. This simple process alone will help one advance to the highest stage of spiritual success. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishram Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Didati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakana Raghunatam Vidam Tam Sajivam Sarvitam Savritam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Dev Shri Radha Krishna Param Sakana Gadita Shri Vishakam Vidam Cha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namikoda Tushe Namaha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vavancha Kalpa Trivascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Bhavaniryo Vaishwaryo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityananda Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Vishesha Shukadi Paschati Deshitani Okay. So here, um, following along the same theme of the last verse, um, the Bhagavatam is speaking about the importance of self-realization and the need to um, detach oneself gradually from materialistic life. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport is warning us of the dangers of one who does not do such a thing, one who remains in family life. And Prabhupada says here, he spoils the energy of human life by remaining encircled by loved ones and um, our greatest objects of attachment in this world. And we find this actually throughout all of the Bhagavatam, all of Srila Prabhupada's books, not only the information about transcendence, but also the warning about materialistic life and the consequences in following that. And in Upanishad, there's one verse, Vidyam cha yastad vidho varyam saha, vidyamrityam tirtva, vidyamrityam ashnase. That only one who cultivates the culture of nescience alongside culture of transcendental knowledge can actually become free from repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortal life. So it's we must know how Maya is working, and we must also know how Krishna is working. Of course, Krishna is working through Maya. It's one of his energies. Maya yakshina prakriti suyate sacharacharam. But we must understand how does the living entity prolong his entanglement in this world, and how is it that he's actually trapped up in this cycle of birth and death, and how can one become free from it in a very careful way. And it's just like during times of war, sometimes a spy will be sent behind enemy lines to figure out like how is the opposing enemy, what are their plans of attack, like what are all of their equipments, soldiers, and what are their weak points, strong points. And just like that, one individual spy across enemy lines can completely destroy the enemy's you know kind of a chance at winning by giving information to the opposite side. And like this, if we can become well read in Srila Prabhupada's books, which are, detailing in great, detail how Maya is working and how the mind works. This Sangha Sanjayate Kama, how the mind becomes attached to things just by um, by thinking about them or coming in contact with the objects of the senses. How there's that uh, that sequence of events leading to delusion, bewilderment of memory, and then falling down into the material pool again. How Krishna lists that, the Bhagavad Gita. And then even using the mind to elevate oneself through focusing on the holy names, as we heard from Namamrita this morning, Prabhu read, that the mind is always trying to go here and there. And even Arjuna tells Krishna that this process of yoga, controlling the mind, I think it's more difficult than controlling the wind. And in Krishna, he confirms it. He says, yeah, actually, it's true. Just like in Krishna, actually, I mean, he made the mind, so he knows its nature. Just like somebody, if you have like a computer chip and there's some problem, right? You might take it to the manufacturer and ask him what's wrong with it. Like, how can I fix it? And that computer manufacturer, since he made the chip, he knows exactly like every single part of it, how everything is working, every single detail, and so he can pinpoint exactly like this is wrong and this is how to fix it. So there, Krishna knows how the mind works. Excuse me. And so from that section, we can learn that it's through it says suitable practice and detachments by actually cultivating the desire for spiritual life and following regulations and principles and being consistent in our practices. We chant 16 rounds every day, and cultivating detachment from this world, and detachment from unrealistic expectations, and maybe becoming uninspired if we can't control the mind. But no, we have to keep going. So like this, the scriptures are teaching us actually what is the right path and what is the wrong path. What is light and what is darkness. And as marginal potency, Tasta Shakti, we are in between the internal spiritual potency and the external material potency. And we can take shelter of either one. We have that ability. But by taking in this knowledge about the dangers of taking shelter of, or taking so-called shelter of the material energy, we can understand how it's actually not in our best interest, and change our our outlook, changing our desires to try and take shelter of Krishna consciousness, of devotional service. and so in this way we learn by hearing. We see the world through what we've heard from Shukadev Goswami, through what we've heard from Srila Prabhupada. This is called the Shastra Chakshu. Most people in this world, they see the world through their their contaminated senses. They see the world as, where can I get the most instant sense gratification, and this is how they see the objects of the senses. And just like a bull, the only way to pacify a bull is if you put a ring in his nose and you pull him by a rope, and he'll just go anywhere you want. Similarly, everyone is being pulled by the objects of the senses here and there. Everybody thinks that they're the master, that I have freedom. People think, I want to be independent, I want to be, free from some ruler who's oppressing me or something like that. But at every moment we're subject to the control and dictation of our senses. Nobody can escape them. Everybody wants something nice to eat, and then after they do that, then they want some other thing to entertain their mind, their ears. And if all of these are covered, then if they feel in a comfortable situation of life, then they want to go after the ultimate sense pleasure, which is sex attraction. And so Prahlad Maharaj says, Mito bipadyetta grihavritanam, that one, even by understanding or by hearing instructions from others, one cannot actually make any difference in his life and pursue the spiritual path. And he becomes a grihavrata. He makes a vow that this is that actually household life, that my family attraction, this is the greatest goal in life, is to become happy through raising a family and providing for their needs. And when they don't take instruction from the scriptures. And in the Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada talks about in the purport that there's 3 levels of intelligence. That the first class intelligence means you hear, you learn by hearing what is right, what is wrong. Second class of intelligence is that you hear what is right and what is wrong, but still you don't have faith in that, so you try it out, and by experience one learns. And then the third class of intelligence, which is the lowest intelligence, people who are steeped in ignorance, they also hear, they experience the negative effects, and they still don't learn. And pretty much that's been us every lifetime. We've heard, maybe we haven't heard, but we've definitely experienced, how much suffering comes from contact with material energy. How many times have we been cheated or wronged or even killed by somebody else? We've experienced it all. And how many times have we been in the hellish planets, going through all those horrible descriptions that are in the 5th canto, and still we don't learn. But yeah, that's why a devotee, by chanting the holy names, actually gains intelligence, transcendental intelligence, that actually the demands of my mind and senses, I don't have to immediately gratify them. I can actually they're like an itch, and I can kind of tolerate that itch until it goes away. That's what Prahlad Maharaj says. In Maitunani Grihamere Sukham Hitucham Kanduya Nena Karyori Vaduka Dukam Dipyanti Neha Dipyan Bahuduka Bhaja Kandutivan Manisijam Vishayeta Tira. That for materialists, the greatest happiness and pleasure is sex life. But actually, Prahlad Maharaj compares sex life to, it's just like the itching, and sex life is like rubbing that itch for some relief. But actually, if you rub a mosquito bite, everybody knows, it'll start to bleed and it'll get worse. It'll get infected. Maybe you have to amputate your leg at some point if it's really bad. You cannot heal from a mosquito bite unless you stop itching it. So, so yeah, one may be affected by so many material desires, but if one just tolerates them and waits for the natural process of Krishna consciousness to purify him from all of these anarthas, they will go away on their own. You don't have to engage in them. But of course, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Vedic literatures, they give facility for those who cannot do that, for those who have to kind of experience worldly pains and pleasures in order to learn from them, and then eventually develop like detachment from them. And Yeah. And so this Griha Medhi, this attached householder, is uh, very famous in Bhagavatam. This householder is spoken about a lot in many different places. Um, Probably one of the most famous ones is this verse, Janasya Moho Yamaham Ameti, that the living entity is illusioned by the concept of I, me, and mine. And um, basically starting, I mean, I don't have experience of starting a family, but it's almost like, materialists who are set on that path, they're almost like trying to have their own like heavenly planet. Like, you have a wife and now you buy like some land, some property, some like your own little universe to the father can like, work on the house, build it up, have nice um, pool, garden, whatever. And then now what do you do? Now you have to fill it with progeny, have kids. And in this way, the um, the materialistic householder unknowingly is becoming so much entangled. Every year that goes by, he's getting more and more attached, more and more entangled, and you know, uh, the kids are like, very much objects of affection, and it's very hard to give up. Actually, my father was telling me the other day that this Gordon Ramsay, the chef, that he's like, I think he's like 57 years old, but he has 6 kids, and the oldest is 25 and the youngest is 18 months. So he like had like 3 kids back in like his yeah, like late 30s, and then he had like 3 more like after he was 50 years old, just because I guess he like, I don't know, got bored. He had a lot of money. He wanted to somehow, you know have some kind of objects of affection in this world, because those kids weren't enough, his wife wasn't enough. But anyways, you can see, like, I mean, this is like 100% not what the human being is supposed to do. Have kids after 50. Like, it's amazing. And actually, you can tell the spiritual advancement of a society or of a culture based on what the older people choose to do with their life. Um, you know, in India, this intelligence of what to do in the older years of life is mostly there. Um, it's like if you go to holy places, it's mostly old people there. They know that actually we're meant to purify our consciousness um, through taking shelter of of God in any of his forms. In Ayodhya, Rishikesh, Vrindavan, Mayapur, so many holy places are there, and the older people have such great piety that, yeah, I mean, not a lot, not all of them, of course, but many of them, they actually, that is there. They will go and live, away from the family, and try to perfect their lives. Um, but in the U.S., there's no conception of that at all. Actually, when people become older, they go to somewhere like Florida on the beach, and what do they spend their time doing? They just watch television. They, um, have chats with the other senior members of the community, and if they want to have some kind of like more complex like social discourse, they'll go and play cards or play checkers or bingo, um, and yeah, just kind of spoil the energy of human life. And um, yeah, then they'll just, like, my father has one friend, his his ex-boss, who like retired, and he's just living, I think, in San Diego somewhere, and he has like this big house, and he just spends his time like playing golf and kind of doing some gardening here and there, and like he has no kind of I mean, maybe he's thinking about death, what happens after death, but he's not making any plans. Nobody makes any plans for death. Tries to prepare, and yeah, that's why this Maharaj Parikshit is such an exalted soul, because he knew death was coming, and he made preparations. He perfected his life. So yeah, it's really amazing. And yeah, this there's the story of Gajendra, who he was an attached householder, basically. He was living in great opulence on the heavenly planets, and he was basically the king of the jungle. When he would step, all of the other jungle animals would kind of scurry out of the way, and he was offered great respect. He had great family, um, and yeah, as we know, one day he took his family to a very celestial pool of water and was bathing there, and they were having great family fun, spraying water on each other, and it was such a great time, and beautiful aromas in the air of these celestial flowers and waterfalls and everything. And then all of a sudden, Maya attacked in the form of a crocodile, and caught hold of his leg, and he, being an animal of the land, he was in a weak state, so he couldn't fight back very well, but he was still strong. So he was able to survive in that struggle for 1,000 celestial years. And during that time, he was in such a helpless condition. He looked to his family members, and they were just standing on the shore. They wanted to help. They were crying in a helpless state, but they couldn't help him. They couldn't do anything. And Bhagavatam compares family members to fallible soldiers. That in Prahlad Maharaj says, he says, Nartasya chagadam udanvati majadono taptasya tat pratividirya. Yeah, he says that actually these are all these remedial measures, like a boat cannot save a drowning man. The greatest medical science cannot save one who is destined to die. And similarly, parents or family members cannot protect their dependents from death. This is what Gajendra experienced, and he had this realization that actually my greatest attachments in this world, that I felt the greatest kind of shelter in their company, the greatest kind of happiness, it's all crumbling before my eyes, and I'm realizing that actually death personified has come to take me away from that which I thought could be a permanent situation. And so Gajendra, due to his past devotional service in his previous life, he realized that actually my only shelter is God, whoever he may be, the Supreme Lord. And so he offered very sincere prayers of surrender, which are very famous prayers that we recite today. And yeah, he offered a lotus flower, and yeah, Vishnu came and saved Gajendra from that situation. And so like this, Bhagavatam is so amazing because it gives us experience through hearing about the lives of other living beings and the trials they go through, and in their path to pure devotion, and their struggle for to be free from the things of this world. Like Dhruva Maharaj is another example of a sadhaka who had material desires but became purified. Of course, the famous story of Bharat Maharaj, who developed inauspicious attachment to a deer. And one of the most famous examples of this attached householder is Maharaj Chitraketu, who he wanted a son, but he couldn't have one. And the Narada Muni told him, yes, you can have a son, but the catch is that this sun will give you great happiness, but he'll also give you great suffering. And everything in this material world is like that. Happiness and suffering are two sides of the same coin. So any happiness, if we see any opportunity for happiness, it's just the inbuilt code of the material world that suffering is alongside that. Suffering is coming. They're both there in the same thing. And so Maharaj Chitraketu, he knew that, and he said, yeah, whatever suffering comes, I can handle that. I can tolerate it. It'll be worth it, because I'll have such great happiness with the sun and everything like that, which I've wanted for so much. And then he got that son, and then of course, his other wives who weren't fortunate enough to have that son for him, they became envious, and we know how they actually, out of envy, they poisoned that son. And actually, Maharaj Chitraketu, when he heard it, it's described that he let out a wail, like a very helpless cry, and he actually fainted due to grief. So you can imagine, like, oh my God, losing a son. And in his great grief, Narada Muni took compassion on him, and he called back that soul of the kid back into the body, but not to kind of allow him to kind of keep living in family life and everything, but to instruct his father. And so that soul came back, and he was able to speak. And I think it was Narada Muni asked that soul, like, why did you leave your father? And that living entity said, which father? I've had so many fathers and mothers in previous lives that I don't remember him. And hearing that, Maharaj Chitraketu, he became sobered by that, and realized actually how illusory material, family attachments are. And so we can experience through the lives of these devotees how the material world is working, and how we don't have to make the same mistakes. There's one very beautiful Bhagavatam class that Vaisheshika Prabhu gave. It's entitled Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for emotional transformation. And he talks about how in his youth, his family, they were very much into like going to see plays. They had like yearly passes or something. And he talked about how he would go, and he would see a play, like some Shakespeare play, and you could actually feel the emotions of the actors on the stage. And in this way, you could become completely identified with them. And then even after, for many weeks afterwards, you can still kind of have it in your consciousness and think about it. And this is, this is very common even in movie theaters. Like, you leave thinking about the plot, and maybe you like live a little bit differently or think differently about life. But basically, the idea that Vaisheshika Prabhu said is that we can experience through another person, and this word is vicarious. Vicarious means to experience another's experience through, or experiencing the emotions that another is experiencing by seeing or by hearing, their story or what's going on. And in this way, one can have a catharsis, or like some great realization about the world. And so Vaisheshika Prabhu was saying that is what Bhagavatam is meant to do for us. That by actually reading these stories, we can think twice about trying to enjoy this world, and we know that great dangers that can come from it. Vaisheshika Prabhu says that this world it's like booby trapped, where like in Indiana Jones, he'll go into some ancient temple, and there'll be some golden orb standing there on an altar, and then like as soon as he like takes that orb, some like mechanisms are tipped off, and then some poison darts shoot from the wall, and he like dodges it, and then he runs down the corridor, and this big boulder is chasing him. There's like trap doors. So the material world is also like that. If you interact with it in a certain way, with the wrong consciousness, with the enjoying consciousness, then there are inbuilt reactions that will come from them that are not so pleasant. Um, and yeah, and even these four regulative principles that we follow, if you were to completely indulge in all of them, there's like great consequences that come. Illicit sex. If you just indulge in unlimited sex life, um, there's so many bad things. You'll get diseases, which are incurable, or you'll get you know kids, so many kids, which usually people who have a lot of kids outside of marriage, they end up having to abort the pregnancy or whatever. So even like modern society, they know that there's a problem with having too much sex. So people kind of can see how it makes sense to kind of limit that. Of course, training in brahmacharya and things like that, students don't get these days. So they exploit women. They don't know how to treat women with respect. If they even get married and have a family. And of course, indulging too much in intoxications, everybody knows that this is bad. Everyone says marijuana is the gateway drug into, these other things. And then you see in San Francisco, these people just on the street, just totally like haunted by ghosts, and that's the result of intoxication and gambling. People know that you can develop a gambling addiction, lose all of your money. So, and then meat eating. Yeah, scientists have found out that meat eating leads to heart disease, high blood pressure, things like that. Um, so yeah, these are like quite obvious kind of ways that the material energy can entangle a living being in sinful activity, and the negative reactions of these sinful acts. They're supposed to serve as a reminder to us that maybe we shouldn't be doing those things. Just like in Sri Upanishad, Srila Prabhupada says that the sufferings that we get from in life are meant to remind us of our incompatibility with dead matter. That we are spirit cannot enjoy through matter. It doesn't work. There are two categories of energy. It's like saying that this water bottle can like enjoy the philosophy of like a Srimad Bhagavatam or something like that, going the other way. But yeah, so instead of kind of basing our happiness on the things of this world, which are inherently temporary, if we cultivate knowledge about what does it mean to be temporary and what does it mean to be eternal, and what am I, we understand that we are actually eternal spiritual beings trapped in a temporary body, and then we can actually find where is true happiness, which exists in Krishna consciousness. And one doesn't need to take shelter of these so-called shelters of this world, like family, home, wealth, honor, prestige, and one eventually arrives at the conclusion that actually Yugaitam Nimishena Chakshasha Pravashayat, that this whole world is completely empty. It's valueless. There's no value in the material world. Actually, true value is Krishna and his devotees and the spiritual world. And yeah, so so yeah, and if we read Bhagavatam in this mood that actually Bhagavatam is trying to warn us of how this world works, then we can actually kind of take it into our hearts and kind of realize it. And will think differently, have a different consciousness about the world, about the material energy, and see it actually as Krishna's energy, and it's meant to be engaged in Krishna service. Yeah. So I think I'll stop there. Yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to give class here to you, my worshipable seniors. So please, if you have any corrections or comments or anything, please raise that. Yeah.
That's well too, actually. I appreciated this reminder about the 3 levels of intelligence: hear and learn, hear then try, and then hear, try, and don't learn. It's a good reminder for me. And then the second reflection is yesterday when we were distributing books there at Palo Alto, the farmers market. I met this gentleman. He was running for district attorney for Santa Clara. His name is Daniel Chung, and he has this campaign of wanting to restore justice and public safety. So I thought I would offer him Bhagavad Gita, and he said he had it, and he was kind of in a hurry. He's picking up all the signs that you stake into the ground. And I asked him, "Did you read it?" And he said, "No." So I was just thinking if people in general, him specifically too, they just come down and sit here for 45 minutes, there's so much you can take out of one of these classes on Srimad Bhagavatam that actually would provide true justice and public safety, because we understand that true public safety is actually to remind the living entity of their spiritual identity, and then re-engage them in divine service to Krishna. And that saves one from this vicious cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. And that actually is absolute justice. And I was just saying how so many times we meet people like that. Simultaneously, and to conclude, is that it then creates a great impetus for this service that we do, because it's now an opportunity for living entities to read, and as you said, to bring it into our hearts. And if one can do that, then they have a different perspective on life. And ultimately, that will lead to a behavioral change. I appreciate these points that you brought. Thank you.
Yeah, one time Srirani Prabhu told me, like, he had like super sober conversation with me about like, these students, and he was saying yeah, there's nobody who can break their cycle of sinful activities and repeated birth and death. They can't do it themselves. It's up to you. And, us, obviously. Seems like we're the only ones who can do that, with the power invested us by Srila Prabhupada and the Prabhupada. Of course, Krishna's doing it, Srila Prabhupada's doing it, but we're like, the instruments. So, yeah, if not for us, who will help them? Yeah, thanks, Prabhu.
I wanted to share. You shared the verse, the Yan Maitunadi Griham Mevi Sukham Tucham, that verse. I remember there was a class by Ranisham Prabhu where he was mentioning that, like for the male body, the pleasure associated with sex has been brought down from the heavenly abode. That's the only minor thing that is given here. That is why it is the highest in the material abode. And he was saying that you do not need another person to enjoy it, because the pleasure is within that person itself. So the main reason like a man would want to engage in sexual activity is to dominate over the female, and it's in that domination that he gets the pleasure. So the emphasis in this verse was to develop the knowledge, abhyas and vairagya, to realize that that pleasure is tucham, or it is insignificant. And thank you for laying the emphasis on it, and also showing by example that as you're taken on saffron.
Oh no, this is just external. Don't let it fool you. Okay. Anything to argue?
It's a nice class. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's my great honor to serve you in this way. So, thank you, Prabhu. Anybody from online?
Somebody.
Thank you for joining us.
I think Suchilal Prabhu has something to say. Yes, Prabhu, go for it. Prabhu, you're muted actually.
Thank you, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. Um, um, I actually have a question regarding, it wasn't directly related to the class, but I heard from one devotee that the pleasure is the same. Like he was telling, like how a human is better than an animal if he's just thinking about eating, sleeping, defending, mating, because he said it's the same pleasure. And today I heard from somebody, he was telling that in the heavenly planets, there's a gradation of happiness, like Gandharvas, Indra, Brihaspati, each like it's 100 times more, and the pleasure enjoyed by Brahma is even more, and even higher is the pleasure in the liberation, the Brahman pleasure. So he was telling, like, there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita that Vedesha Yageshu Tapascha Chaiva Dhanis means all these things are attained. It's the last verse, I think, of 8th chapter or something. I don't remember. Vedesha Yageshu Tapas, that one. So he was telling that the devotee can get all such pleasures. The self-realized person gets all such pleasures. So my confusion arose that like in heaven and all, it's also the same, going to be the same, eating, sleeping, or some things like that. So why is it said it's higher pleasure sometimes? Is it because more of goodness, as we go up, more and more of goodness and more sattvic pleasure, but activities may remain the same? So thank you, Prabhu, if you could clarify.
Yeah, in heavenly planets, there's definitely a longer lifetime. There's no kind of old age or disease, but death is still there. So in one sense, yeah, the standard of pleasure, standard of enjoyment is higher. Just like the standard of enjoyment of a human being is higher than like that of a dog. That still that sex pleasure is it's the same thing. It's the same feeling, although the standard is higher. Just like if you eat, puffed rice, you feel your hunger is satisfied. But then if you eat, something much better, like maybe some, I don't know, some ras malai or like paneer curry or something, it's like much higher standard of food, but the same feeling is there, that you become satisfied, your hunger is satisfied. So it's similar in heavenly planets. It's a higher standard, but like that feeling of sex pleasure, it's the exact same. And so, yeah, but but yeah, that one verse that you were talking about in Bhagavad Gita, devotee actually gets higher pleasure than that. Even Rupa Goswami says that the highest pleasure you can get in the material world is just an insignificant fraction of a drop of water, which is compared to the impersonal realization, Brahmanda. And even that water is nothing in comparison to the ocean, the unlimited ocean of devotional service, which you get in the spiritual world. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's a pretty nice question, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Actually, the devotee was telling, like, animals are even better than us. He was quoting, like, monkeys can enjoy sex much more than us. Hippopotamus can eat a lot more than us. And like, even, for sleeping, some other animal, like some polar bear or something, he could sleep a lot more than us. So he was telling that animals are even better than us. But in another context, as you were telling, like, the human can enjoy more higher quality, may not be the quantity of sense pleasure, but I guess it's all immaterial if we are enjoying spiritual pleasures in devotee association, so it's much higher. Thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Rantra
Thank
Srimad
you.
Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
and the Gita